So this is a battle on Ensk in the E25, the Tier 7 German premium tank destroyer. It's an interesting tank. It doesn't really have much armor. It's got a really low profile, low alpha gun, but it's got pretty good DPM on it. I decided to choose this replay not because it has like a lot of super educational moments in it, just because it's pretty lulz. So this is kind of a little bit rare. There will be a couple educational pointers, but mostly it's just lulz. And really the moral of the story is, don't let an E25 sit there and shoot you. I know it sounds painfully simple, but it's not always as simple. And so playing on this north side of Ensk, I like to play, especially with a lot of faster tanks, I like to play through the middle. It's not usually good for non-turreted tank destroyers, but the E25 is relatively quick. The first thing that I always do on this side is knock down this wall. It makes it so that if they get to cap via field, that it's really easy for you to reset them. The nice thing about the E25 is that it has really good camo because of its low profile. So I'm going to set up here just to start because our Bulldog went out to that 0 line and our T-34-3 is sitting in the middle here, so I want to see if their light tank comes through the field side. But you'll notice that our T-34-3 kind of stops in front of me and our Bulldog is pushing up, but the Bulldog has reached an area now where if they're pushing up on that side, I'm not going to be able to see him in time. And it's a little bit difficult to play through the middle in a non-turreted tank destroyer, so you want to do it a little bit carefully. There's a lot of places where you can hide. I like to knock down walls. I don't like them to be up later when I may need to shoot through them. And so I'm just kind of waiting to see where their tanks are. So we know that they have a lot of their tanks in the city side. I don't know what's on this 6th line or not. It's actually rather easy to counter this area against a non-turreted tank destroyer, depending on what tank they send here. I see that they've got a couple of their tanks in the field, especially as I move up. I see the KV-4 gets lit. So there's not really anything that's lit me on the 6th line here, so that's going to allow me to move up here, and this is where it becomes very dangerous for them because there's basically a bush that's in front of me here, and this bush isn't very tall, but it's short enough to hide an E25 in. So I'm basically going to be able to use this bush to camo snipe. Our guys are in the field, like that A45 is in F2 that's doing all the lighting for me. And you'll see I'm basically getting to shoot with impunity here, right? There's nobody countering me through the middle. Their guys are in this F line, but they're not actually any place where they're reasonably safe from where I'm at. So it's giving me the opportunity to get a lot of shots through here. And so that's sort of the problem of taking that center line without having control of the 6th line, is that even if I was lit, let's pretend like I was in a more sturdy tank, like a heavy tank, an IS-3 or something like that, it gives me an opportunity to get shots on these guys from here, and they don't quite have the setup to counter me. Like, the only reason why I got lit on that 6th line is because their GW Tiger ran away. Okay, so now they've pushed through the field at this point, which was kind of expected, right? They had a lot over on that side. We still got our guys on the city side. We need to try to clean this up as quickly as we possibly can. So I'm trying to keep this jumbo tracked out here. And this, again, goes along with the moral of my story. Don't let the E25 sit there and keep shooting you. We'll repeat this mantra a few more times, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, I guess. Unfortunately for them, fortunately for us. Let's put it that way. And then always remember, if you can, try to shoot drive wheels of tanks. It paralyzes them, forces them to burn a kit. You know, reduces their ability to defend themselves. And so I see they brought their T-44 back, and so this is not what I want. Like, if I'm the E25 in this scenario, I don't want to get in a brawling match against a Tier 8 tank. Right? That's not the advantage of this tank. The advantage of this tank is that you have an enemy shooting at somebody else, and you're getting shots at whoever. At that person who's shooting at your teammate. So it does really well in that role. The important thing is that you need to get your gun up there so that you're someplace where you actually can support your team. You don't want to be so far back that you can't actually help them. And so their T-44 backed off a little bit. Our SU-100 is pushing through, so that's going to allow me to get across here with impunity. So they've got a couple guys on cap. Not too worried yet.
It's a trap!
And then again, don't let the E25 continuously shoot you in the face. I'm gonna try to track him out there. He's having trouble tracking him.
It's a trap!
And that's pretty much it. Like, you'll notice a couple of things. One is that what I really tried to take advantage of there was not being face to face against an enemy, trading punches with them. I tried to always find a situation where they were occupied, and I simply moved myself into a position where I could punish people who were trying to hurt my team. And that's sort of a general rule of thumb for all tank destroyers. You want to be, you don't ever want to be so far back that you have to wait for your teammates to die before you can actually do something useful. Anyways, and so that's the ball game. And so there's a couple of ways that you can play this 6 line. Again, I don't normally recommend it for a non-turreted tank destroyer, but it all depends on what they send there. We knew that they sent a lot over here. We knew that they had like their K44, T44, etc. out on this field side, right? So we knew that they had a lot of tanks out here and in the city. I didn't get spotted on the 6 line. I didn't spot anything on the 6 line. I basically crept up. If something did pop up there later, all I would have done is just basically broken out here and sped back up the 5 line to get away. And again, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to maximize the number of shots that I take, you know, especially on guys who are occupied by our team. Like our guys did a good job of advancing to this E2, E3 game spot early, right? Their guys sat out on this F line. That F line is vulnerable if you don't have control of the 6 line. Even if you're not in an E25 or something short, you know, that can use that bush over there, you're vulnerable to getting shot from this side. Again, like I said, if I was in an IS-3, I could have played that position, you know, just as easily. I just would have been peeking and poking to get my shots, and they just would have been, you know, equally as vulnerable there. And so it's a very precarious position to play unless you have control of the 6 line as well, which, you know, they obviously did not. And then, you know, what I'm trying to say, especially for tanks that are more classified as support tanks, you know, you always want to be in a position where, you know, this was our front line, this E2, E3, right? This was their front line, F2, F3. I was always on a flanking side of that of a position where I could get shots into them without being the front, right? They were fronting for me. All I was doing was making sure that, you know, their lights did something for them, right? You know, the fact that they were in proximity to those guys actually helped them out. And it's the same thing, like once we pushed in, right? We killed the jumbo, track him out here, pushed to the, you know, the jumbo was facing west, you know, trying to get our guys that are crossing south through that 2 line. And so we're able to track him out here and kill him. Same thing, right? We flanked the Tiger 2, and then after the Tiger 2, right, we came out on this H2 line, right, and we were face to face with the T44, just run away. I mean, that's not an exchange that, unless you have to win that exchange to win the game, you know, that's not in your wheelhouse. That's not going to be advantageous to you to just sit there and try to trade with the T44, right? And then it was just go back up here. They had some cap pressure on. Attack people who are occupied with your team, right? And it's really, really important to be able to deal damage to tanks like that. Tanks that, you know, that would otherwise potentially have been able to flank blue, for example. And so we were able to clear that off pretty easily. And then it was all just pretty much more of the same. So this was a sort of an odd match for the E25 in the sense that normally you won't play that 6 line, but in terms of playing a support tank, like, I think that's sort of what you want to do. You want to be active enough that your gun is always, you know, firing at their front line. And you know, I can't quite stress this enough, but you'll notice that I was never really head on with any single one of those tanks. Every single one of those tanks was almost uniformly occupied by something else. I didn't even get shot, I don't think, until the T-44 shot me. And so in situations like that, you want to be active. You want your gun to be active. You don't want to spend a lot of time waiting for things to happen to roll your way, if at all possible. I mean, sometimes you can't, and it depends on the tank. Like especially like a slower tank like the AT-15A that Blue's in. You know, you can't really play those lines nearly as effectively, depending on the tier comp and dispersion. And so if we look at the stats. This is, like I said, a little bit more of a lull game than an educational game. But the moral of the story is, I mean, like we got 48 shots there in a 6-minute game, right? So that's a lot of shots and not a whole lot of time. And the reason why we were able to take that many shots, though, is because, we did not front at any single point in this match, right? The only time we were fronting was against the T-44, and what did? We bailed out. Right, because that's not the mismatch that we're looking for, and so we were able to get 48 shots in 6 minutes, which is fantastic. That's what you want, and part of that was the failure of their team to cover their F line, sort of a failure of the F line to sit where they were sitting, which was not a very smart place to go. And then it was just a matter of being able to be on people's flanks, be someplace where people are trying to move to attack your team, and be ready and able to counter that. And that's what really allows you to be the most useful in support tanks. Anyhow, so I hope that was helpful for lolling at the E25 and a little bit about Ensk. Especially control of that F line and that sort of middle lane, and a little bit as well about playing support tanks. So I hope that was helpful, and thanks for watching.